Alright guys, here we are back in the shop. I got my billet as it stands today. I'm going to just kind of flip it over and show you it. A little tricky to see in this light, I know. I've rough sanded it, looks good. These things are just, they're not big inclusions or anything. They're just areas where I didn't grind it all the way down. I think that's probably my biggest one. I can stick a sharp object about half a millimeter into it. It's very shallow. I don't think there's any deeper ones inside. Where we're at right now, this is 56 layers of metal. As you recall, it started out as 9 individual layers that I forge welded together. I drew them out to almost 8 inches, folded it in half, which made it be, and forge welded it again, which made it be 18 layers. And then I drew that out to about 9 inches, and it was a nice, long, relatively small, square-shaped bar at that point. I heated it up really good and actually put 4 twists right in the middle of it, but left the ends 3 inches on each side untwisted. So it kind of looked like I have drawn here. So this was straight, twist, 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 and then straight. And then I cut it in thirds, and I forge welded those 3 together, which would have brought me up to 54 layers. And then, yesterday I forge welded 2 extra plates just to add a little mass to it. So now I'm at 56 layers. I'm nearing the end of this process now. What I want to do is forge this out about twice its length, fold it in half once, re-weld it. That'll leave me at 112 layers of steel, which should give me some really unique patterns, especially with that twist buried in the middle. I'm not quite sure how that's going to look, but I'm looking forward to finding out. So stay tuned for more. That's where we're at this point. Hope you've enjoyed it so far. Alright, good morning YouTubers. So here's what we've got. I've taken and drawn out my billet of steel. I'm sorry, I'm talking through a mask. I've drawn out my billet now. It's at this point it's 56 layers thick. It looks like I've got some good welds. I got a couple little inclusions or lines that I'm going to keep an eye on, like right in here. Right there. Overall, it looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put these guys together, weld a stick onto them to hang onto them. This will be my final weld. This should bring it up to 112 layers. So as soon as I get that done, I'll shoot another picture. Then we'll start our final draw out. See what we can get out of it. We want to get a piece of steel big enough to make a little knife out of. That'll be a really nice Damascus, hopefully, 112 layers thick. Alright, so stay tuned. Alright folks, so here what we have is my final billet. I haven't welded it, forge welded it yet, but I've got my 2 pieces of steel. They're about 2 inches each by a ½ inch thick, so I've got about a 2 by 1 inch piece of steel, pattern welded. Up to this point again, I'm at 56 layers. By combining these 2, it will bring me up to 112. So I'm going to be off for a while unless somebody comes help me video, but we'll be doing several heats for a good solid forge weld, and we'll start drawing out for the final drawing. See if we can get a piece of steel sufficiently sized to begin a knife making project. So that's it for now. I'll talk to you later. Okay, so here it is, June 24th. This is my billet. I'm going to be having to work on it. You can see here it looks like a little bit of delamination on this weld right here. I hope you can see that, as well as on this other side. It's not as easy to see. But anyhow, this is 112 layers of steel pattern welded. It's not going to be long enough for what I had in mind. So I'm going to probably take and get some 5160 and some alternating steel, build this up probably about this thick now, and start over because I'd like to have a blade material about twice as long as this to work with. So we're going to go back to the grindstone literally, figuratively, and add some more layers to this. So stay tuned. We'll be eventually making a knife. That's it. Okay, YouTubers, I'm back here. I wanted to show you where I'm at. I'm kind of doing a little rethinking. So this is my piece that I've had on my videos before. That's a true piece of Damascus or patterned welded steel. This is 112 layers thick right now. But what I've come to the conclusion here, sorry about the movement, is as I draw this out, I don't have enough steel for what I had in mind for making. So I'm done screwing around. I'm going to do some serious adding on here. So here's what I plan on doing. Okay, so there's my middle piece. I'm going to keep that right in the middle. I'm going to put a piece of 5160, a piece of mild steel, a piece of mower blade, which I believe is 1085, mild, 5160. So what I'm going to have here is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 10 more pieces on 112. So that's going to give me 122. And if I take that out once, fold it, and do it, then I'll be at 244. So I think I'll have enough for whatever I need to make at that point, considering all my screw-ups and so on and so forth. So until I get them welded up, you know, with my MIG welder and get the forge fired up, we'll try to get these babies forge welded sometime today, if not tomorrow. So there's where I'm at. Hopefully this will be the last of it. I know that's enough steel for a knife at this point. So over and out. Okay, so what we're doing here, we're getting this up to temperature and just kind of making sure all the pieces make good contact with each other before we try to do the weld. This will be 122 layers once I weld it here.
I thought it was going to be 200 something.
That's when I fold it again. Okay, we're going to get it up to welding heat, let it soak. You can turn it off now. Here we are, we're getting it up to temperature. What we want to do is get it above critical temperature, so my magnet's not sticking anymore, which means I'm at or above critical temperature. Now what I'm going to do is let it soak like this for about a minute, just get it really good. Then I know I've got it all the way heated into the middle, up to the right temperatures. I'm going to bring it back out now and flux it with borax. Here, that's very hot. So I'm just getting some borax on the sides that all need to weld. A little bit here on the front. Okay. Now we're going to go back into the forge. We're going to watch this stuff melt. It's going to look like butter, kind of glistening on it when it's ready to come out. Back in it goes. Okay, you can stop that now. Okay, I'm still for a second. So what I'm trying to show here, I don't know if the fire is going to let it see it, but that's in there. The flux is starting to kind of, here, Josh, it's kind of dancing around a little bit like melted butter. Okay, I'm going to go to the forge. What we're going to try to do here now is start doing some welds. Doesn't need to be anything super hard. Just nice firm hits. And this is going to take a series of heats to get the weld. So I'm on my second heat here. I'm trying to get this billet up to temperature. I need to get at even temperature, so I'm confident the center bars are heated up as well. And then I'm just kind of slowly using my hammer to forge weld these all together. As I said before, I had started with a piece I made that was too small. It was about 100. Okay guys, what I'm trying to show here is I've got my steel back in the forge here. I ran out of memory in the last video I was running. So I'm trying to finish up the welds. This is tough to see with the camera because it doesn't catch it well, but this fire's got a real nice, almost like that dragon's breath appearance that you see out of a gas forge. which lets me know that I'm burning a real nice clean coke type fire. There shouldn't be many impurities in it. Will help me get hopefully a good successful weld, because I'm doing a real big multiple chunk of steel here. I added 10 new layers to one that was already 112 layers thick here. So I'm letting this get up a little bit more. I'm going to do another weld hit on it, and then I'll keep you posted as how it's going with some videos and notations here. Okay? Alright guys, we've had, I don't know, 4 or 5 heats in total here. We've got this welded now. Now we're going to start drawing it out a little bit. I got my son Nick helping me holding it, and I'm beating it with my big hammer. So, it's coming along. We'll go back in the forge here in a second. Alright guys, here we are after I forge welded this together. I've drawn it out, I think, as far as I need to now. Excuse the movement. I just want to hold a tape measure here. This is 7 inches now by, what, 1.5 inches, probably 3/4 of an inch thick. We're at 122 layers with this now. What I'm going to do is cut it in half, forge weld it one more time. That's going to get me up to 244 layers, which will be my final weld. And then I'm going to draw it out as far as I can, and hopefully be making some serious progress to actually starting a knife. So, stay tuned. Alrighty, I'm back from just grinding this down, because when you go, I'm going to cut this in half, fold it back on itself, but when you go to forge weld steel together, you want to try to get as many of these little pockets out, because they're real easy to cause cold shuts or inclusions, which, you know, weaken the knife structurally and actually detract from its appearance overall. So I think this is probably about good enough. I might do it just a little bit more. And I'm going to cut it in half, fold it back, I'll tack weld it together. I'll be ready for my final weld. Thank God I am so tired of doing this. To get up to this point is taking a boatload of work. This side I don't have to do as much, because these will be outside facing and I can work on them more later on. So, but it's coming really nice at this point. My welds overall seem really good. I got a few little lines which probably don't show up, but I think they're just grain appearing things. I don't think there's any real, there's a couple things like right in there. Although this will be cut off here when I'm done, because most of what you see up here is weld, which we don't want in the blade because it's from my MIG. This down here I'll just not worry about right now, but as you draw this out, these edges point more than this middle, just by nature or my technique, one of the two. Alright, so we're going to get it marked up and get it cut, and I'll be back. Alrighty, so I've got these two cut. I'm going to put them like this, get my welder out here. Little tack on this side, pretty big tack over on this side, because this is a lot of wasted steel here. And then I'll get it back into the forge there. I have it just the blower off, so you can see it just kind of sits idle like that. All you got to do is flip the switch, and literally within a few seconds you'll have flames starting to shoot out of it. This is a real good design I made, at least I think it is. You can see that already, there's little bits of flame coming up. What will typically happen, I have to pull a clinker out of that when I first have had it sitting like this, because I put some fresh coal on to coke up. And then once that's done, it's good to go. So I'm going to turn the fan back off right now. Alright, so back here, I'll be back in a few after I get the welder out. Alright, so I got my two pieces welded together, tack welded together I mean. I haven't forge welded them yet. This is the first heat. I'm going to let it get really nice and hot. I'm going to tap it a little bit with a hammer to make sure the edges are seated really well. I'll bring it back up to temp a little bit more, flux it with some just standard borax. That's all I'm using, 20 mule team borax. That's what I use for my flux. Seems to be working fine. Get it fluxed good, get it back in, get it up to a welding heat, nice and consistent throughout the entire block of steel. I'll bring it out here to my anvil, and I should be able to pop this together relatively easily because they're nice smooth surfaces coming together. I don't know if it's true, but I grind perpendicular to it instead of vertical with it. I guess that's the right word. So as you pound it, the theory is that the grooves going out help force that flux out so you don't trap flux within a weld, because that'll cause a inclusion as well. So anyhow, we're getting this in, trying to get it. It's just starting to get red. You can see there. Got a few more minutes, so I have to get my fire back to a good fire. There's a little bit of green coal burning in here, and you definitely can't weld with green coal. So I'm gonna get it coked up real good, so I have a real good. The flames kind of going off on the right side there are better flames. Coming out in the back on the left, that yellower flame has a lot of impurities in it, and that will mess with your weld. So I'm just heating it while it's getting into the right mode. So we'll see you in a little bit. Alright guys, so this is 244 layers thick. Going through a couple heat cycles to just normalize it at this point because I did multiple heats to get a good weld. But this is 244 layers now. Okay, I want to show you the bunny. This is 244 layers. I'm going to let it cool down now, wire brush it, inspect, make sure I've got good welds, and then the official drawing out process will begin. So that's where we're at. So letting the forge kind of just relax. I got the blower off. That's about it for now, so I'll be back in a little while after I inspect it when it's cool. Alright guys, so I've got this inside right now. I just kind of touched it up with the sander grinder last night to see how some of the welds look. This is my final piece that I'm going to begin to draw out now. It's 244 layers of steel. Kind of different than normal in that I started with a lesser amount of steel, and as I was getting it drawn out realized I didn't have enough, so then I stopped and added to it as this video segment has shown. But I took it from those pieces and through a series of 5 more on each side of the central billet I had already done, brought it up to 122 layers, 122, and then as I drew that out, I cut it, folded it in half, pattern welded it, or forge welded it, brought me up to 244. So this looks good. The welds are nice and solid on here. I don't see any delamination. Stuff like this is just where my handle is welded on, and that will be cut off the final piece, so that's not anything of significance. Over here, again, when you see this right here, there's a little line. I don't know if it'll even show up, but that's just a ridge from a piece of steel. Inside where or down at the next layer here where it makes contact, there's no delamination. This is a real solid weld. Looks really good. So now I'm gonna wrap this segment up until I begin drawing it out, which is the hard part because there's a lot of steel. This piece is what, about 1.5 inches by 1.25 inches maybe, by what, 4.5 inches or so, 5 inches. That needs to be drawn out. Probably be about 12-13 inches long, I figure, when I'm done. So if I can do it. So stay tuned.